are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the P.A.C.E Radio Show. We are live, and we are coming to you live here from lifestyleradio.ca or .net. I'm your host, Al Graham. Just so I should let everybody know, too, that I am back in the window here at Canada Days in downtown Camelford, and I'm looking outside the window right now, not only at the traffic at the stoplight, but Shallon, she's getting ready. She's hooking up the speaker to outside so everybody who walks by the store tonight will be able to hear the live broadcast. Tonight, my joint host is a lady who is very active on social media and very active at her hometown. Small town, but stays very active. That's what counts. And that's Kim Cooper. And our guest tonight is a person that loves to write and publish everything about cannabis. But first, I'm going to talk with Kim. Kim, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. Al, how you doing out there in Camelford? I hear the weather's fantastic down there.
Yes, it is. Actually, it was like 32 degrees today down here. Like on the Celsius side. Yeah, and what are you expecting tomorrow for your weather? I'm expecting the same kind of weather tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're also wonderfully warm down in southern Ontario. Welcome to my life in northern Ontario. Small town of Smooth Rock Falls is expecting 5 centimeters of snow tomorrow.
See, this is why don't get your ladies out yet, people. You just never know, right?
You just don't know. When you're as far north as I am, you're well into June before anything gets into the ground out there to be safe.
Yes, exactly. Because I've seen it. Snow May 2-4 weekend. So, all right. Yeah. Well, I hope you don't get too much snow and that it melts quickly.
No, I hope so too.
Okay, in our news today, we got a few things here. I see the workers at a dispensary in Toronto joined a union.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff, I gotta tell you. The Canna Clinic, now it's a bit of a franchise. There's offices coast to coast from Toronto to Vancouver. So this will be the very first one that's doing this. The union president, Jerry Diaz, his name is, said this is a fast-growing industry. With the advent of legalization, it's important that workers have a voice and representation as the sector evolves over the coming years. Interesting stand from the unions.
Yeah, it is. They're all supportive of it, right? They say everybody has a right to be unionized no matter what industry status is.
That's it, and I think it's an excellent move. So the Broadview Clinic, the one in I guess East Toronto, there would be the first one that this is going to be happening in, and the union is looking forward to bringing in members from other locations as well.
Wow, I wonder what the first contract would be like.
It will be an interesting development to see for sure. I'm very encouraged by this. It brings, professional status to the workers that are employed in these businesses.
The one fellow, the organizer there, or director, John Amon, says that workers are citing safety and training as their primary concerns.
Yep. And so that's a good thing. So that means that workers that are going to be employed by these dispensaries are going to have the tools required by the people coming in and requesting the information, they're going to have the tools required to do their jobs properly. So it's also going to help the industry as a whole if people are getting credible information from where they make their purchase.
And help the patients.
Absolutely, 100%. It's a fabulous idea.
Now, also on our news tonight, the raids, man, they just keep coming.
Oh God, so many. I mean, from Niagara to Belleville, they're all over the place. Downtown Toronto, all over again. Here we go.
Yeah. See, the Niagara had one. Just recently, there was. We're hearing today that there was a couple in Toronto. One of them apparently in Kensington Market. Yeah. And then just recently, a factory, a cannabis edible factory, was shut down.
Yeah, no, that's a big move. The edibles factory, we're not positive, but it looks like it might have been a soft drink manufacturer from the photos that were taken. So I mean, which is a really popular thing for patients and non-patients alike to purchase. So horrible. Yeah,
it is. It is terrible. And as they say, the dragon always fights the hardest before its death, or within a battle of life. And that's what's going on now. We're seeing, prohibition's rearing its ugly head and trying to stay alive, and people are still paying the consequences for it.
Yeah. With legalization on the forefront in 12 months or less, so they say. Yet we still have so many people going through our criminal system, being charged, being arrested, being ripped through everything in life. Having children taken away, losing businesses, money, houses, status in the community, the whole ordeal of being arrested. I mean, this shouldn't be happening for something that's going to be legal in 12 to 13 months.
Yeah, it's a shame that people are going through this. And I was talking to a local fellow here just recently, and I found out that his son is working actually at a dispensary in Toronto, and he knows the risk, but he just wants to help the patients, and he's not an owner or nothing. He's just a staff person.
Yeah, somebody that feels the pull to do the right thing and help patients, and those are the ones that are paying the price.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Kim, what do you think? Should we move on to our guest this time?
I think we should. I would love to do that.
All right. Well, at this time, I'd like to welcome Kim's guest, and that's John Vergados of SKUNK Magazine. Hi, John. How are you?
Pretty good. Oh, good. On speaker. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm all right. I'm just having some dinner with some good buddies and some guests from South Africa that are here for the harm reduction conference.
That's awesome. So harm reduction conference. Now, where is that taking place? Where are you right now, John?
It's in Montreal. My hometown.
Fantastic. So close to home, and lots of people coming from abroad, and you're going to get right into talking about that conference and so much more.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to be talking about the conference because I didn't go, but I mean, basically, I'll talk about my guests. They're fighting a constitutional case in South Africa. If they win, basically, they force the legislature to go back and legalize or fix the system they got. Sort of like what was going on here during the Smith trials and Allard trials. They're fighting their own case, and the government is fighting back. So it just shows you that this is a global fight. It's not in our own backyard, although it affects us most. But this is a human rights catastrophe that is happening all over the world. And we had a chance to sort of be the world leader, and we've basically succumbed to profits and greed, and basically made it like just any other industry when it could have led the charge to a new type of renaissance.
Yes, when you look at way some of the other places are bringing out their legislation and what they're looking at including, and then you see what we're including, and there is some disappointment for sure.
Yeah, no, I was left with my jaw open because there were some rumors that some good things in this act, but it just I think they mentioned prohibition and punishment or whatever like 200 times, and they mentioned legalization I think once. This is what we're looking at. But I remember campaigning for Trudeau when he was running. And although I feel a little bit naive and gullible, I don't feel bad about my choice because there was no alternative. Another conservative government would have just been catastrophic,
You know, and the Green Party is supportive.
I remember saying at the time, though, because people would question your choice, saying they're going to lie, and I guess they were proven right in the end. But we can always hold them accountable. That's what I kept saying then, and I keep saying it now. Let's make it cost them next time.
Like right now, talking about allowing 4 plants, that just gives us more of a fight to fight for more instead of.
And if you grow a few more, then you'll go to prison for 5 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's not right either. 6 plants.
No, it's not. It's like, we start from the premise is like all this regulation bullshit talk. The only regulation we need is to ensure that we have a clean product. That's it. Basically, you have to protect the plant from people. That's the only protection it needs. And the rest of it, why do we need regulation when we start from the premise that it's a beneficial substance? Why do you have to? Shouldn't it be more access rather than more regulation? But it's like anything else. And I'm getting tired of this fight because it seems to be you're banging your head into the wall. Even victories become losses. And basically, all we did was take this industry and have them hijack it. And I keep seeing selfies of LPs in front of the stock exchange, looking at their stocks go up. Although there's been a reversal recently, and I see our people being criminalized. What's happening in Toronto is a shame. It's people vote. They go to these places because they've chosen to. That's all the proof you need. That people want dispensaries, and yet we have to protect our fundraisers and our benefactors and in many cases, our cronies, because the list that have come out and showed how many LPs have government ties. It's criminal. And there should be an investigation, and I think one day there will be an investigation into what happened behind rooms.
And people are voting with their feet. They are attending these events. Kim, as you know, the green market, people there getting their edibles and lotions and creams, which the government's trying to shut down.
Oh, absolutely. When I went to the green market, it was packed. I mean, I couldn't move. I had a hard time doing interviews. I was butting into line to get time to speak to the vendors. I mean, the outpouring of people is fantastic. I mean, that shows that the community is engaged and wants these products.
And
Mark Emery was doing almost 2,000 people a day at the end. And here in Montreal, when they opened up the cannabis culture shops, I was there seeing people line up for 2 hours in minus 30 weather. They were so eager to just get a little taste of freedom. It lasted only a day, but these are the people telling government this is what we want. And this is government saying, well, we don't care. We're just going to take it, And that's what we got to fight against. It's a little bit disappointing and disheartening what we've seen happen, because I had high hopes for cannabis. I had high hopes that basically what I had seen in California and the practices of growing and the beneficial runoffs and the organic growing was gonna spread to other industry, and all it's become is cannabis had become just like any other industry, We could have shown them the way, and yet they've co-opted it and stolen it.
Yes, they have. And do you think that maybe did they do that in order to make it easier to sell to Joe public? Like I realize you, me, and a million other people, don't
I
have
think
a problem
some of the
with
regulations that. Maybe to some extent, but it's like that would explain maybe, like I said, regulations, but it wouldn't explain why. You're erecting this thing that only the rich can participate in, and your friends. That has nothing to do with selling it to the public. Yeah. That has only to do with greed, pure greed.
The stats that have come out so far is over 60% of the heads of these departments that are involved in the legal cannabis industry are former heads of government and part of government or friends of government.
Yeah, and big campaign contributors and ex-RCMP and ex-government themselves. I mean, John Turner's there. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know Danker published a list of involvement, and it's quite scary. And then when you see, like, you could see it was a farce to begin with. When you see Bill Blair being one of the heads who's made his career basically putting people away, and was responsible during his tenure for one of the most abusive, like crimes against civil rights during the G20 summit, I believe.
Kettling,
when they were just rounding up people all over the place, depriving them of their rights, just mass arrests. And this was the person in charge of legalization task force. But let's not forget Ann McClellan, who basically works for that law firm which represents most of the LPs. Let's not forget Dr. Ware, who shortly after the task force just took a job with Canopy Growth. So all the people making decisions for who can grow and who can produce have direct ties to either law enforcement or LPs. And, I mean, it's so... What makes me angry is that it's so transparent, they're so arrogant that they don't even bother to hide all this, you know. They just basically assume that they're just going to take it over. And so far they have, but I don't believe this act to pass. I believe there's too many things that won't pass muster during, Charter of Rights, especially the DUI provisions. And the first time an 18-year-old kid passes a joint to his 17-year-old brother or friend, and he's looking at jail time, I think that won't pass constitutional muster either, because it seems a bit excessive. You can get a fine. If you sell alcohol to a kid, you'll get a $500 fine. If you pass a joint, to your younger sibling, you can go to jail for up to 14 years. This is what they brought us.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%, John. I've discussed this in depth with my husband and other, cohorts around my circle and stuff. And I am 100% convinced that this was it may have been set up to fail even, because if they can say, well, we tried, it didn't work, but we know where we went wrong. So if you vote for me again in the next election, we'll get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that happening, although, I don't know. Will we be duped a second time? Hopefully there's going to be, hopefully the NDP sees that legalization is an issue that can potentially win an election, and which I think it did win an election for Trudeau. Aside from the fact that we were kind of tired of Harper and he made other bold promises, which he hasn't kept either. It's not even cannabis that should be the biggest disappointment. He promised electoral reform vehemently. That was one of the things that he was going to fix right away. And he came into power and he said, well, we can't really do that right now. I don't want to do that right now. He promised to protect Indian women, right? Commissions and all this. Well, where are we at? Nowhere.
Yeah. The pipeline, that was another promise, and it's gone now.
Yeah, so I mean, even regular Canadians that are basically not even in this cannabis fight should hold him accountable. He's just a liar controlled by big business, and it's too bad because I thought I was fooled. I know there's online petitions going around about the election reform promise, trying to get them to bring that back in.
Yeah, and a big one is the pipeline supporters as well.
All they're proving is that government
is not a friend of the people. Yeah, because he said he was going to squash the pipeline and he was going to look at not doing that, and now it's all going forth and Kinder Morgan is happening, so BC and everything is freaking out. That was another large campaign promise. It's par for the course, but I mean, it's a good lesson to us that politicians really, although maybe on a local level we can achieve some victories on a once you go to the federal level, they're not friends of the people. We see it mirrored down south. We see it mirrored here. Government here is basically business, and it's bought by whoever supports them, whoever gets them into power. And we kind of thought that legalization would be enough of an economic incentive that they would legalize finally. It wouldn't be because of any altruistic notions, and we were right, because it was economic that made them legalize. Except that they want only their friends to have the money, And there's a lot of good people being shut out here that I've met throughout the years that deserve a place, and not to work for an LP, but to have some ownership as well, because they built it. People that have created strains that have saved lives, techniques that have basically given us cheap, clean medicine, and all of a sudden they can't be part of the system because, they're assumed to have been part of the old guard, and we don't want you. Anybody who's a threat. Look what they've done to the Emery's, the CC5. Look what they keep doing to the dispensaries. Look at the seed bank raid just a few weeks ago at Kingston, Kingston, and I kind of, in my mind, I saw that being the next battleground because now the LPs control genetics. If you want to grow at home, which you'll be allowed if this thing goes through, you'll only be able to get your starting material from LPs at whatever price they determine, whatever offerings they want to put out, So all these seed banks become a threat all of a sudden now. They've showed that LPs have lobbied the government to shut down dispensaries, whatever. I wouldn't put it past them to be behind the seed bank raids too, or the seed, Kingston in particular. It makes total sense for sure from a reasoning standpoint. Lord knows they don't want any independent business in there. And it's discouraging because many of us were hoping that they were going to follow the guidelines from the task force. When the task force guidelines came out, I was strongly encouraged. They did a really good job on that task force in outlining patient needs and the general public's wants and expectations from this. They included dispensaries. They included mom and pop shops. But once again, the government chose not to go with the guidelines put out by a task force commissioned by them.
And it comes down to the provinces as well. I know from what I'm seeing, people over in Quebec are going to get hit, pretty hard as far as not being allowed to do things like you could maybe in another province.
Absolutely. And somebody like me, I'm right on the border. I'm a border town with Quebec. I'm 45 minutes off the border. We go over to Quebec all the time. Northern Ontario, Quebec, Quebec, nonetheless. And, and there's already cross-border issues with Ontario teens going to Quebec at 18 and going to the bar and stuff like that. It's going to be the opposite effect with legalization, and we're going to have the Quebec teens coming into Ontario.
I don't know. I mean, from what I think, or I believe the only privately owned dispensaries that you'll see in Canada will, potentially be in BC, where they've put into place a regulatory framework kind of thing so that these people can exist. But I see the rest of the country, I don't see that happening. I think it's either going to be something like the LCBO, not the LCBO, but some sort of government body to sell cannabis in both Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, all these provinces. And then if they do allow dispensaries, they're going to be LP owned and controlled. That's the way I see it.
I agree.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? That BC government could wrap their heads around the whole concept of this and see the value for community
look how much
as well as
activity comes into BC.
Why can't other provinces do that?
Well, they've had a longer history, I would believe. There's in Victoria Island, there's so many people, that whole place exists because of cannabis. So these are their constituents, right? And as much as I believe that politicians don't respect the will of the people, they respect the will of the vote, kind of thing, in the sense that they'll do anything to get elected. And if it means that they, over there locally, and I'm not saying there's not progressive candidates that work with their people. You'll see that more on the local level, like I said earlier. But in BC, it's their entire economy in Victoria Island. And then you look at all the peripheral places like the head shops and the vapor lounges and the seed banks and all that. It's big economy there, And frankly, they've got other bigger problems, with the fentanyl crisis, the opioid crisis, and that. And I think even the local police force, realize that this is not something that should be enforceable. In fact, it took like Toronto cops to shut down the cannabis culture clubs over there, rather than the local cops.
So in essence, it's just been more of their culture for a longer period of time, so it's become the norm there, and it's not yet that way anywhere else.
Well, it's been part of Quebec culture for a very long time. In fact, I think we're probably, one of the pioneers of growing, if not importing, cannabis or hash back in the early days. But and here it's an entirely corrupt system where everything operates on kickbacks and that, and it's not usually the cannabis people that can do that.
No, that's right. You see a lot of that in your construction over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just spent $40 million on lighting up our bridge that's going to be demolished within a year, and basically and leave the rest of the city to just go to waste.
Yeah, because I know from what I've been hearing and reading the papers and all that, yeah, the government there in Quebec isn't keen on, what it's going to cost them in order to operate to run the legalization, and they want some money from the federal government.
Yeah, but that's usually the case in Quebec with every new act. They basically, and many other provinces that say this is an opportunity to extract money from, from the Fed. This is no different. I mean, it's a shame we have probably the cheapest hydro rates in Canada, yet we have one or two licensed producers. Versus Ontario, which has pretty expensive hydro prices. So you wouldn't think that's really a place to grow. But that is the center of government. So, like we said before, they all have governmental ties, and you'll find most of these people in Ontario.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Ottawa, right?
Yeah, when that list started circulating around of the owners and stuff and the government's connections, I was really surprised I didn't see more conservatives on there, being that, the MMPR, the growing and all that came in 2013. They had 2 years, but yeah, when you look at the list, there's an awful lot of liberals on it.
Yeah, it's primarily liberal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, remember, it was started by the Conservative government, but it really, I wouldn't say it. The momentum came with the Liberals, I think, and now we see there's 300 applications that have just been filed for LP licenses. Let's see who gets them.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a crazy situation.
Yeah, like right now, I can look out the window here of the store and I can see a craft brewery selling their craft products.
Yeah, eventually you'll see that. I mean, I think, but it's going to take a long, long time. And by then, most of the people that, like I said, pretty much created this industry will have long gone, pushed out. This is also a war of attrition on government. Government has unlimited resources, and activists get tired, discouraged, and, they raid 100 dispensaries today. None of them reopen. They raid the 90, 80. It's a war of attrition. People give up after a while. I know I'm feeling this. I've been under arrest, or we've been raided since 2013. It's 4 years later. Probably the trial will be in another 2 years. It's 6 years that they persecute you, even if you're not in court. You can't go on with your life. And now they're coming after us. I mean, I'll be forced to declare personal bankruptcy if they don't take my proposal. But I have $750,000 in fines from the seed import case. Wow. Arbitrary numbers, which they just they make up the most punitive penalties that they can, just so they can destroy you, even if they can't convict you, to make sure that basically they try to discourage anybody else from doing this. Because it interferes and threatens their bottom line.
Yeah, that's the end game, and they play this with dispensary owners and right down to bong shop owners. They still get raided. As little as 2 to 3 years ago, a bong shop was raided in Kirkland Lake, and that's exactly what they did to him. They confiscated everything, leveled him with all kinds of fines. They bankrupted the guy. He lost his building, he lost his house, he lost everything. Well, guess what? Now you can't reopen.
Yeah.
Well, it's very expensive to fight the government. Like I said, they have unlimited resources. I've got a couple of prosecutors on our case, and it's discouraging to see. Just about a month ago or 2 months ago, they let go of probably 30 or 40 members of an organized crime family because they took too long in prosecuting the case. And these were serious charges. These were murders and assaults and whatever violent crimes you can think of. Yet they all went free because they waste their time coming after people like us,
Yeah, well, the more they clog up the system with cannabis prohibition, or people that are fighting prohibition and going against the system, the more these violent and dangerous offenders are getting off. I don't understand why the general public isn't crying out about this.
Yeah, and they see it as an opportunity also. Even it's all about money. I mean, I see police chiefs now lobbying for more money so that they can enforce legalization. Like, it's legal. Why do you need more resources now if something has become from criminal to completely legal, or with some provisions? And then they want to campaign for more money to go after cannabis people.
They're saving on their budget on a daily basis by not arresting cannabis smoking people. So what about all the money they're saving from that?
Yeah, but that doesn't give you an increase in the police budget. The only thing gives you an increase in police budget is more enforcement, and they tend to go after the easier criminals, right? Because most 99% of cannabis people are nonviolent, otherwise respectful of the law. So they're the easy takedowns. Not many people that I know under the old systems, are violent criminals or organized crime or walking around with guns. So they're easy to arrest.
Absolutely. And they love throwing that in there nowadays, don't they? Organized crime associated with cannabis use?
Yeah, technically, I think their definition of organized crime is two. I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 or more people. So basically, You know, and that becomes a conspiracy as well.
Yeah, it's three people. If the three of you get together and share the expenses and you know the work and all that, then yeah, you're listed as organized crime.
Well, so
I think it goes even more simple.
At my Sunday dinner every week.
Yeah, I think it's even simpler than that. If you buy a pound from somebody and then you take that and make it into quarters and then sell it to somebody, there's three of you. That's organized crime, according to their strict, definition.
I mean, what happened to the days of the get-together? General cooperation.
Yeah. Okay, guys, time for break. Time for a commercial break.
That was fast.
Sure.
Yes, it was. And we're going to hear some music by a band known as King Bong and their song Grow. And then when we return, Kim and I will continue our talk with our guest, John Vergados of SKUNK Magazine. This is the P.A.C.E Radio Show, live on lifestyleradio.ca. This is the P.A.C.E Radio Show.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
But, the economy is deceiving here because people think the economy is based on fish, but it ain't. People think the economy is based on wood, but it ain't. Some people think the economy is based on tourism. Fuck that shit. Some people think that the economy here in BC is based on the movie business. Nah. The shit that runs this province is marijuana. BC bud!
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponics system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a P.A.C.E information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the P.A.C.E Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the P.A.C.E Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Grow some marijuana, slow down, farm some weed. Slow down, grow some marijuana, free yourself from the corporate greed. Slow down, grow some marijuana, slow down, farm some weed. Slow down, grow some marijuana.
Hey, we're back. You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Show, and we are live here at lifestyleradio.net or .ca, and we are also live at Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, and Shoutcast, and we are also live here at Canada Days in Campbellford. I'm in the front window looking out at my sign. It says free cannabis information in the fine print. That's all. Don't forget to tune into Friday night for Al, Marcel, and the rest of the crew. The 420 crew, they're here at Lifestyle Radio. They're live. Tune in for 2 hours of informative and sometimes crazy talk, as well as some great music and guests. This all happens Friday nights at 7 p.m. with the 420 radio show right here at lifestyleradio.net and .ca. Tonight, our guest is John Vergados of SKUNK Magazine, as well as The Highway, and I'm sure we'll get into both of those before the night's done. And joint host, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper. Well, Kim, sorry about the snow. Worry about that snow that you got coming tomorrow. We won't even think about that. But,
no, that's not.
That's not. So I will just, instead of because you got the snow, I'm going to let you get the questions going.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Al. Yeah, just before the break there, John, at the very beginning of our discussion, you were talking about some friends that you're with from South Africa. I'm dying to hear more about that situation.
Well, they're here from the harm reduction conference. They've been invited as speakers. And
what happened with that?
Sorry?
What happened?
Where in South Africa?
Yeah, in South Africa. Like, what are they? They're there to speak about their situation. What's going on in South Africa? What's their
they're fighting. Like I said, they've been fighting a constitutional case for the last 5 years, I believe. I'm not 100% sure of that. I do know the implications, though, if they win, which there's a good chance they will. They'll force, like I said before, the legislature to go back and fix the system. You know, they run a non-profit, I believe, so that's why they're very sympathetic as well. They didn't grow for profit or anything like that. They're just trying to provide access to people, and I believe have been charged with cultivation. And if they do win, they like what we're facing, what we've been fighting here for the last few years, a constitutional challenge to the laws that are in place.
Would that legalize it for? Was that legalize it, but for medical or recreational or both down there?
Let me just ask him. Give me a second.
Sure. There you go. We'll find out right away.
Yeah, I got the answer. There's no distinction. It'll be everything. Legalization, medical. It's called responsible adult use.
Very nice. Responsible adult use. Respectable.
Right, like it should be everywhere in the world, right?
Correct.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That would be the model for everybody to carry forth, I would think.
Well, like I was saying earlier, it's a beneficial substance. It shouldn't be treated like plutonium. There's only one motivating factor to do so, and it's power and greed.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Now you're at the harm reduction they're at the conference and all that. So, but you said you actually didn't go into there. So, is there anything that you could tell us about the conference?
No, I didn't actually attend the conference. Shame on me for not realizing it was in my town. You know, But we've been so busy just trying to survive. I mean, this last few years have been so challenging that there's a few times basically the survival of skunk have been at stake, the highway as well in jeopardy. We, just by facing the things that regular cannabis-based businesses face is like we don't even sell cannabis, we just write about it. Yet we lost our credit card processing 7 or 8 months ago because we were a cannabis business, and we were refused by 2 or 3 processors. 2 of them accepted us and then withheld our money. We finally now got one that we're hoping is gonna play ball with us. But it put us behind like tens of thousands of dollars. That some of it became uncollectible. So we've been surviving pretty much on shoestring. The staff is basically, we're down to like 4 people kind of thing. We like to think we've still provide a consistent product, and now we're up to 19 issues a year, including skunk and the Highway Canada and Highway California. But it's been a really rough time at the same time. Basically,
so much.
Waking up in the morning and all you think about is money, and not doing anything dishonest, just trying to write the truth. But yet you're being penalized by a system that doesn't accept, cannabis as an industry, even if you write about it.
Yeah, I seen some stuff online today where somebody was asking about, where could they go for a bank for the cannabis business because they were at RBC and P.A.C.E has been closed. I remember a hemp store, Hempville or something down in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick area. It was closed. They lost their after being there for years.
Yeah,
we had ours for 10 years.
Yeah.
We had our credit processor for 10 years. We never had one chargeback, nothing. And they got bought over by Elevon, which is the biggest credit card processor, at least in North America, if not the world. But they're based in Tennessee, and they have, I guess, something against the whole cannabis world. So they yanked us. Called me up one day and said, we're not going to process your payments anymore. And basically, the money that we do have, you'll get it. And it took about 3-4 months of calling them every couple of days, every week, so we can get money that was already processed, that they were holding on to. We've faced a lot, And if it wasn't for, my belief, I guess, that this is something worth fighting for, I would have given up long ago because it's just too perilous, Combined with criminal cases, punitive financial penalties, just the day-to-day of operating a cannabis business, it's pretty hard,
What about credit unions? Have you looked into them at all? Because I've heard some good things.
The only credit union here is the Caisse Populaire Desjardins in Quebec, and I don't know. They don't even offer merchant numbers. They go through Visa, so it's not really, you can't really use them.
No, they're not going to do it. We have that here in Smooth Rock as well, so it's all Northern Ontario. Caisse is a very popular bank. Caisse Populaire is very wide up here.
Yeah, and I know here at Canada's, Wayne went to get just to interact, and
because we probably a lot of majority of our clients are in the U.S. and it doesn't you can't send an e-transfer from country to country.
Yeah,
and we tried. I mean, we gave people all sorts of options, but it's a lot harder to get your money after the fact than it is before, which we used to be able to do. By and large, most of our advertisers have been okay, but a large part, just prefer the convenience of credit card, and it's taken like months and months and months just to rectify accounts, and which puts stress on them as well. They don't like things not going smoothly, right?
Yeah, you raised an interesting point. A lot of your subscriptions and people purchasing the magazine are in the U.S. Skunk is a Canadian issue.
Skunk Magazine is 75%. Our distribution is in the U.S. And we distribute 15,000 Canadian highways, but we distribute 30,000 California highways just in that state alone. So it's a much, I'd say 75% of our base is in the U.S. for sure.
So for all my fellow Canadians out there, get on your Skunk Magazine subscriptions, I think, eh?
Yeah. They can, maybe we can even take PayPal, as loathsome as I find them, anything. We've had to resort to, we took Square for a bit, the Square reader chip. 2 days later, they suspended us. So it's been, it's not very friendly for cannabis-based companies out there, even if it's just journalism.
Yeah, and actually, you got nothing to do. You're just writing about cannabis. You're not handling any cannabis whatsoever.
You're a publication. Yeah, it's a publication like any other
they're
publication.
just worried.
On the
The
magazine.
official answer I got from Elevon was that it's damaging to their reputation. You know,
damaging to their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh my God!
You have to remember, in the U.S., cannabis is still technically federally illegal, and banks are basically regulated by the federal government. So I can see, some, why certain ones would adopt that posture, but. And there are certain, merchants coming out that are.
Not if you're dealing with international clients. I mean, that's like saying you won't accept it from a pharmacy in Portugal where it's legal.
Right. I mean, it's just, there's other ways to get the money. You can do wire transfers and all that stuff. It just makes it very cumbersome. And it's hard enough to sell ad space these days, and then make it a little bit more difficult, and it becomes an easy no for the other people on the other side,
And now with Canada legalizing, if that goes all through and everything in a couple of years here, like you've got our banks under federally could legally work with a cannabis business. But you may run into a problem when you're trying to deal with the U.S. end of things.
Well, I mean, once it goes legal here, I expect banks to follow suit because it's an opportunity to make money. But there is one account or one merchant processor right now called Merck, who's processing all the LPs that are out there, credit card payments. But they're very specific that they won't deal with any dispensary or any craft grower or producer or edible maker. It's strictly LP.
Yeah, well, I believe even some of the LPs had problems at one point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. LPs had
some of them had
their accounts shut. Royal Bank and TD. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a crazy situation for all of them. I mean, and the fact that we do have one, like you say, Merck, that is processing for LPs and not businesses or even, a publishing company such as yourself with SKUNK Magazine or The Highway, that seems pretty discriminatory to me.
Right, but they can always hide behind the fact that they can't process money for what they deem an illegal business. And the fact that we're a magazine, right, we get advertisements from a lot of the craft people, so in their eyes it's illegal, so they don't want to associate with it. And remember, there's probably penalties that they face. And, they don't do this in a vacuum. Obviously, they've been pressured by government not to accept payments and that.
Yeah, because they've been operating, yourself, I've been operating for years, Cannabis Culture operated for years, TY as far as magazines. Cannabis
Yeah, no, we had
head shops, everything.
Before. But not now. It took us 8 months now. We finally found one, I think, that accepts us. The only alternative I had was to go offshore and pay 10% fees, which I couldn't do. It's too prohibitive.
Yeah. Those
basically
fees
they
on
have
top
it
of other
classified as
fees.
worse than porn.
Wow, just amazing.
Yeah,
just amazing. Just amazing.
And all my trouble started, when Kim showed me that bang bong, and then they pulled my credit card processor. I don't know.
Way to go, Kim.
That's hilarious.
For the listeners, I mean, it's an inside joke. Kim has this device that it's multi-purpose. I think, at least it goes the way I see it. So, but tell them the name. The listeners can look it up online for themselves, Kim. The official name, not my nickname.
He's talking about my Vagabond. If anybody follows me on social media, they have seen pictures of my Vagabond. John seen it, and when it was put together, and I was just coming into an event, and it wasn't put together yet. It was turned inside out. And he had some visions of what it was for.
Yeah, well, I think sure you have some in your photos in your Facebook profile. Look under albums and boudoir pics, and you'll see Kim in her pink bong.
Actually, you don't get a pink stemmed bong.
Yeah,
and at least you don't show it to me.
My pale pink bong. My God.
I've got a friend who's got one of those, and I'm telling you, it was like people were asking about left and right. We're at the Toronto Global Marijuana March there a couple of weeks ago,
Oh yeah, I get asked about mine all the time when I take it away. They're like, "What is that? That is so cool."
Yeah, it's a mason jar bong.
Like, if most people ask, like, where do you put the batteries?
No, that was just you, John. I guarantee that was just you.
Oh, just okay. All right. Well,
hey Kim, I can get you a wine glass end for that. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, local stores got the mason jar on a wine glass post, as well as colored ones.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I might be able to get you a pink one to go with the stem.
Mm-hmm. And you can call it a boozy bang bong.
Oh, you're hysterical. John.
I'm far away.
And speaking of that, I was going to bring up, I mean, I've gotten together with you at so many events. I mean, you travel across the country for the highway and for skunk. You attend so many events for so many different purposes and give away your magazines and trying to inform people on what you're doing. I mean, the dedication that you show in going out to all these places is tremendous. You guys never stop traveling. It's amazing to me.
No, my partner Julie now is in California, dealing with some stuff there. Like I said before, a large part of our revenue base is in California, as well as a lot of people that I love that I'm not able to see anymore. So she's kind of my ambassador there, as well as my partner. I made a lot of good connections in California. I was planning on moving there until I had to come surrender here to the RCMP, or else they would put an international warrant. And but I love California specifically. You know, there's a lot of progressive people out there that are fighting back and pushing back. And if you see the difference between what happened in Canada, the growers in California, because they have a lot of power as well, it's probably the number one cash crop up there, and they can supply the entire nation given their capacity. They got together, and even if you had a conviction previously, even they unified, they lobbied, and they got the right to participate in the new program. You know, and that's why they're so much more advanced over there.
Yeah.
You know, because it's the true craftsmen that are actually producing, not somebody that, basically only got introduced to the word cannabis because they had it in their stock kind of name or whatever, A lot of these people don't even have no affinity with the plant. It's just a cash grab for them. And that's what I think will be their ultimate demise. I don't expect all these LPs to make it in the long run because, number one, they're all losing money right now. And they can't even supply. I mean, they have the arrogance to demand that they're the only ones that supply the recreational market, and they can't even supply the small medical market. They're notorious for running out of indica. How many of them now? 5 maybe, with the latest being P.A.C.E Naturals have been found using pesticides. They cheat, they lie, and imagine basically the government has the power to revoke your license for these types of breaches, and yet they have the arrogance. They know that they're untouchable, because they are government, that they still risk these big things, these big breaches, knowing that nothing's going to happen to them. Their stocks will fall for a bit, but eventually they'll rebound, right? Because that's what they do.
Well, they stay in for the long run, and they wait for the rebound to come, and that's when they cash out and get all the money and everything. But you're absolutely right, John. There's the industry in itself is problematic for sure. They cannot produce a steady supply for patients. I, as a patient, can attest to that. I've been with several different LPs, and none of them can supply a steady stream for the patient on a regular basis. Month after month, patients are having issues.
Yeah, I expect some craft LPs to come into the picture soon. I know a couple of them personally that are part of the old MMAR program that I'm rooting for. I want them to be perhaps the change in this world, And I hear good things about Broken Coast because I do believe they are ex-MMAR. They're not a massive conglomerate, and they produce good product, That's not.
I've heard the same thing. Yeah.
Well,
I can tell you, I got a news article here. One of the places just announced that the pricing is all going up.
Well, and all of them are.
Yeah, and that's for the compassionate pricing.
Yeah.
It's even going up.
Yeah, all of them are. There's increases across the board at all of the LPs. You're rarely going to find $8. You're now basically looking at 10 to 14 per gram across the board. No matter
right, and then remember, these are the producers, right? This is These are people that are producing pounds and thousands of pounds, right? Aesthetically, or in some cases, it's probably true. And yet they're charging retail prices, right?
Correct.
They
yeah,
love it all. They want wholesale. They want retail. You know, I mean, I know on the streets that you see that kind of pricing as well, but that's prohibition that causes that.
Yeah, many of them don't have the supply patients. There's packaging issues. I know with P.A.C.E Naturals, their packaging, they've got 20-gram bottles available, but no 10-gram bottles, no 5-gram bottles. So it's 20 grams or nothing. So now if you don't have the money for 20 grams, you only have the money for 10. Well, guess what? You're SOL. You don't get no meds this month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was talking to a patient on Monday, and they didn't have all the stuff, and they're a fairly new patient, and they contacted the company, and their LP didn't have what they wanted, and it's a big box.
And that should, in itself, based upon past court decisions, should collapse the whole system. If it's about access for a patient, as soon as that patient can't get what he wants, that means the system is not working.
Exactly. I have a list of patients that go month after month after month not being able to get the meds they need. Either the strain they're looking for is not available, or the strain they are looking for is only available in a lot that is over the amount they can afford to buy. And the lots cannot be broken down.
I remember one running out of indica. How could you, if you're servicing pain patients, how can you run out of your indicas?
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
And I hear other rumors that they're hoarding the medicine too, that they're stocked full of stockpile that they keep there because on their books, this worthless weed is worth a lot more to their stockholders. It makes a pretty picture because it's top dollar on their books, but it's not sellable,
Yeah.
But it's part of their inventory and assets.
And then you have all of the legal producers that are supposed to be dealing medicinal cannabis to Canadian patients that are now selling and exporting to other countries.
Yeah,
Tilray being the one that seems to have their eyes on that. I heard their first shipment all leaked, all the oil they sent to Australia.
Oh, well, I didn't hear about that. But, we're exporting products from several different companies are in the export business. Now, P.A.C.E Naturals is also exporting.
But they can't supply the local market, the Canadian market. But you got enough to send.
They probably get more money
on
the international market, I would assume.
Yeah. Right now I've got 2 P.A.C.E Naturals clients that can't get their medication because of lack of supply. But P.A.C.E Naturals is exporting medication.
Yeah. Well,
thank God the dispensaries keep reopening. You got to give it to them. Basically, they're the front lines in this fight as well.
Well, look at that one we talked about in our news segment that's actually joined a union.
Yeah, and that's one way to beat them. I've been, the labor movement is one of my pet, what's it called? One of the things I studied in school when I was in university. At one point, I wanted to become a labor lawyer, so I know pretty much the history of unions. And that's I was talking to some American union leaders about trying to throw a wrench in the LP's kind of plans by trying to organize their own workforce, But I think it's been tried and it failed before because I believe, and don't quote me, but I think they're treating cannabis workers as agricultural workers, therefore a lot less rights. And that's why one LP early on was bringing in migrant workers, and which they can dismiss at any time with no benefits, with no, this is the kind of industry they're setting up. It could have been all inclusive. It could have included craftspeople. It could have really been something that was a spearhead for change in all industry. Yet they're just applying the same kind of business school practices to cannabis, and ultimately it'll fail because that's not the way you grow good cannabis. And they're seeing it. That's why they keep getting caught with shoddy products.
As I saw someone post on Facebook there recently, $9 for commercial cannabis. I'll just sell it for $6. Just constantly undercut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, a lot of that is the dumb regulations that the government has put in place, where it's like you said before, there Kim, that it's almost set up to fail. Those regulations are set up to fail. The things that they make you do as an LP, which is just outright stupidity when they come lot numbers, and you can have a plant that's finished, but yet you have to let it go a couple more weeks for the same batch to finish, even though it's plants grow differently depending on where they are in the room. So you can destroy your medicine just by trying to abide by their regulations.
Yeah, absolutely. Not every plant is going to finish at the same time. And if they all come off the same lot, they have to be harvested at the same time. So how does that work in agriculture? They can't apply the same, they can't say it's an agricultural crop and then try and put a business platform behind it. Agriculture.
Well, it's agricultural when they want to, and it's plutonium when they want to. You know, they want to have the best of both worlds according to enforcement.
How many cornfields have you seen with glass around them?
How many? Sorry?
Yeah.
So, like, when you're saying agriculture or non-agricultural, agricultural, I don't know of any place that has, you know, glass around it.
Or wire fencing and barbed wire and security guards and
exactly. Okay, time to pay some more bills. Time for a commercial break. Tonight our bumper music features King Bong and their song Grow, because we all need to grow, don't we, Kim?
We sure do.
Then we come back. Kim and I will continue our conversation with John Vergados of SKUNK Magazine and The Highway. You're listening to P.A.C.E Radio Show here at lifestyleradio.net and .ca.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Welcome to British Columbia, folks, where we don't export wood anymore. Welcome to British Columbia, folks, where we don't export fish anymore. Welcome to British Columbia, folks, where we export the finest marijuana in the world. BC Big Bud, Northern Lights, bubblegum, blueberries.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a registered nonprofit organization that advocates for access to cannabis as medicine. Political action in the courts at all levels of government established a federal medicinal cannabis program that is second to none. However, our work continues. If you are one of the millions of sick, disabled, or terminally ill people in Canada that does not have a doctor willing to offer medicinal cannabis as an alternative, we can help. We offer appointments every Monday for qualified patients across Canada who wish to access licensed physicians who will evaluate your condition and help you decide if medical cannabis is right for you. Call 613-967-9888 in Ontario or 250-581-1053 in British Columbia, or visit us at our website, www.canadiantherapeuticcannabispartners.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/CTCP Society.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a P.A.C.E information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At B.A.C.E. Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. B.A.C.E. Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At B.A.C.E. Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. B.A.C.E. Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Welcome to Vancouver Island, the Garden Island, where many of us have gardening interests. Mortgage burners, one and all, line up.
Hey, we're back. Thanks for tuning into the program. We are the P.A.C.E. Radio Show, and always we are lifestyleradio.net plus.ca. But, you know, I know some people have meetings to go to, or maybe it's movie night or something's going on. You can't always catch the live broadcast. So you can catch the podcast afterwards at YouTube, Mixcloud, to iTunes, plus if you're in the U.S., you can catch us on iHeartRadio. Tonight's Bumper Music featured the band King Bong. They're from the West Coast. The song was Grow. If you've never heard of them, I suggest that you look them up on YouTube. And I'm not even sure if the band is still together anymore, but because I know one of their band members passed away recently, and that's unfortunate. It's always terrible when we lose one of our fellow activists. Today on the program, John Vergados of Skunk and the Highway, and Kim. Well, Kim, we're into the last segment. We haven't even gotten to some of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. It's court case, Skunk Magazine.
I know, the conversation's been flowing.
The Highway, and you know, here
that's her way of saying I got a big mouth. That's what Kim means. Yeah.
So, okay, Kim, it's over to you. We get the questions. I know you got some questions from the last break or the last segment you didn't get out.
Yeah, I want to get into a little bit about your charges, John, so everybody knows what's going on. You know, along with all of the issues at Skunk Magazine and distribution and stuff and money issues, you also have the pending charges against you, which is also preventing you from traveling. Tell people, what were you charged with and what's going on with the case?
I was charged with possession, me and my partner, alleged partner, possession with the intent to traffic, importation, and conspiracy.
And what were you importing?
For genetics. Then? Conspiracy was the last charge. That's the most serious one. It carries up to 10 years and stuff, you know. But they usually throw that in as like a bonus.
Yeah,
because, like we were saying before, anything that involves 3 people is a conspiracy, according to them. Or 2 people, I think. But yeah, I mean, these charges originally, we were raided in 2013, so it's been 4 years of this nightmare with the end and, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel a long way from here, because our prelim trial is slated for October 2018. So that would be like 5 years after the initial raid, with trial probably being 6 years after the initial raid.
What? The Supreme Court of Canada ruled 30.
And I was actually, at one point, they suspended the charges against me, which was pretty unique. All like the legal team that I have had never seen it before, and they kind of sort of impressed upon me that it was a good thing, and that probably the charges would be eventually dropped. But then, right after Trudeau's victory in October, November, the charges got reinstated. So it's been it's been like a roller coaster. You know, like at one point we thought that it was over. Then they brought back the charges. Shortly after that, they brought up the fines. You know, so it's not. You can eventually win in court, but it doesn't mean your life is easy during the the whole period. I mean, I firmly believe that they try to ruin you.
Yep. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. Now, to make it clear too, what you were importing was seeds, right?
Yeah, no, we never did anything as far as flour or like nothing about finished product. It was just seeds that that now these seeds are like probably saved a lot of lives, because back then we were under the old system, the old program where the only genetic stock you can buy was from Prairie Plant Systems, and I think you had one choice, or maybe two, indica, sativa, and it was all garbage, So a lot of these kids you see being saved now by high CBD strains and the different varieties that people need, that has a lot to do with our case, And the way it goes beyond that even, because when they try to monopolize genetics, they're trying to erect a Monsanto type situation where they control your, in that sense, they control your food. And they don't really take good care of it either. So by giving a monopoly to the LPs here in Canada, we become a threat, or anybody basically that doesn't agree with that system. And we were actually, our charges came before the LPs, but it's not hard to imagine why they brought back the charges after the LP system was introduced.
Well, I'm not a big believer in coincidence, okay? Justin Trudeau got elected, and charges that were stayed that after they were brought against you were reinstituted. They obviously had a plan in place.
Well, yeah, there's an agenda to eliminate anybody that they perceive as a threat to this new system, And that generally entails or encompasses the people that know the plant the best, The only reason I ever even got a whiff of the seed kind of genetics game is because I used to interview a lot of the breeders, and was impressed by the work that went into developing, creating these strains, stabilizing these strains, looking for different expressions and nuances. These people are true craftspeople, and it's hard to emulate in the laboratory what these people do.
Sure. John, now when it comes to your court case, it's been going on for years and years now. Now, there's time limits. We're seeing people who cases are being stayed, murderers. People have killed people.
Right, but they play dirty tricks. Just 2 weeks ago, the prosecution called my lawyer and says, "Hey, can you guys be in court in 3 weeks?" Obviously they know that the answer is no. No lawyer can be prepared that quickly for something, for a case where we need court experts and a lot of scientists and all that, because that's how we're fighting this case, multifaceted, but one of our fights is that a seed is not cannabis,
Correct.
And they knew that basically we couldn't possibly be present, a year and a half before it was determined, but now they can use that as a strike on our record that we caused the delay, And these are dirty little tricks they play. I'm sure they didn't call a murder suspect and say, "Hey, do you want to speed up the trial?" Yet, they called us,
Yeah, because there was a newspaper report in our local paper about Dr. Cameraman's. I'm sure you probably heard about his situation over the years, but he tried to get his court case thrown out because they were at 41 months, and the Supreme Court of Canada ruled at 30 months.
Right, that's Jordan.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's not automatic. It doesn't mean that it's not a limit that's fixed. Basically, you have to present your case and say, was the prosecution or that delayed. And like I said, the fact that they called a couple of weeks ago kind of impresses upon the judge that they tried. Even though it's just a dirty trick.
Don't they have to give a reasonable amount of time for prep before announcing a date?
Sorry, what was that?
Don't they have to give a reasonable amount of time? In all other cases, there's a court conference. Everybody's lawyer's book gets open. What date are you available? This date. Are you available? Yeah, I am. No,
we already went through that, and we determined our date because we needed a 3-day preliminary trial to bring in our experts into question, Health Canada experts, and that's why they're so backlogged that they have 3 days in court. Will take 2 years down the road. And we have nothing to do with that. It wasn't. That was the first available date. It's not. We didn't cause any delay. In fact, it was the Crown that initially asked for over a year in extensions. So that they can go through all the evidence.
Right.
So they're not innocent in this then.
That's right. So then the judge has to be able to look at that and say, well, that's past the mark there, guys.
Yeah, no, I hope that we come across a judge that can see through this sham, because it is a sham. You know, it's selective prosecution. You know, at the same time that we're being prosecuted, we've had lift shows and this and that where people are out, openly selling seeds and whatever they want to do, yet nothing happens because I don't know why.
Sponsoring the event.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because people have asked about the legalities of seeds, and you see Dana go across the country this year. No one bothered him. He didn't get arrested. Businesses all over the country are selling seeds.
Yeah, every head shop, or practically every head shop, seed banks, online seed banks, they're all selling genetics, and that's a good thing, because we don't want the monopoly to be in amongst the LPs. LPs don't even want to release their genetics, and believe me, they're not going to be releasing their good genetics. They'll want to be selling you that retail.
Or they want $750 for that one clone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and we know how much a clone costs, right?
Yeah. All or nothing. Yes.
True that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A little snip with the scissors and it's all good, right?
All good.
Like, come on.
And those are strains that they got from, a lot of them came from the MMAR growers.
That's right.
Yeah, and a lot of them were even, it goes back to the prairie plant system days, I think, when you would get busted, they would grab your genetics, And a lot of these LPs have, genetics of people. Some of them were sold by old MMAR guys, but a lot of them were seized by police and given to them.
Yep. And some of the LPs originally started by MMAR patients, and then they have been eventually squeezed out and it's been taken over by corporation. But some of them were originally started with MMAR genetics from patients that were growing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, wasn't that right at the end there where the guys were busted in Vancouver trying to get plants on the plane?
Yeah. Then it was all over.
Yeah, that had to do with the timeline that they had. Yeah. Now as far that's your court case. The magazines.
Yeah,
the
that's
highway.
Next on
What can you? Yeah, we got about 10 minutes here before we get into the shout out. So, what can you tell us about the highway? What's all behind that as far as the type of articles that people will find in it?
Well, the highway was something that I've been thinking about for years, and it's not. I couldn't execute it until Julie came on board and kind of complimented what I was doing, and believed in the same kind of message, which is protect craft growers, protect the people that have built this, highlight the people that have suffered for this and are responsible for this whole industry and for bringing this life-saving medicine to people. We wanted to be their voice, and I mean it's caught fire. People are liking what we're doing, both in California and Canada. It's a free magazine, which is in Canada we try to get it to vape lounges, dispensaries. But even that is a cat and mouse. They get shut down and all that. So it wreaks havoc with the distribution. But we have good partners, big companies in the industry that distribute our magazine. We go through to hydro shops, on the East Coast. BC is covered. We send a whole bunch to Cannabis Culture and other places. We've got a nice following in Winnipeg. We're starting to add the Maritimes. So it's a national magazine in which we want to showcase the people who brought us here, And I wouldn't say it's anti-LP because I'm not anti-LP. That's something that some people get confused sometimes. I'm anti-exclusion, I believe that somebody's got to be out there to supply the Walmarts eventually, or the Shoppers Drug Marts and all that. It doesn't have to be the craft product, if it's just a mass kind of consumption product. But we want to protect the people that take that extra care and that have, basically been doing it for years and know the plant the best. We want to highlight those people, as well as the activists that fought at great risk and peril to get us here. Our last issue in Canada was devoted to the CC5, and we had an interview with Mark and Jody after the bus, and saw what they had to say. We're featuring. Before that we featured Clint Young from MMJ and what he's doing with his dispensaries as the CEO. And especially working with mental health patients and giving back money to mental health groups. I don't see LPs doing that.
I seen Clint posted something about getting a 5-minute meeting with the Prime Minister.
Well, that'd be a good thing.
So, yeah. So
if he listens, right?
Be interesting conversation what was going on there. So,
yeah, for sure. And I think you can add on a couple of subscribers. I'd be happy to pay for the shipping as well to get a bundle of those shipped up to me from
Yeah. We're starting. Like I said,
and
it's
that's okay. But I'm sure Al would love some as well.
I will be in touch, John, after the show within the next day. I'll be in touch with you.
Sure. And for anybody that can't get a copy, if you're in a remote area or someplace that's under service, it's also usually a week after it hits the streets. We also make it available free online for anybody who can, who can't get it.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it downloadable online? That's good.
Yeah. Just go to thehighwaymedia.com. Don't go to Highway Media because you'll get a Christian magazine, but just go to thehighwaymedia.com and you'll get what you are looking for. Yeah.
Okay. I can see the website right there on your Facebook page.
Yeah.
And then Skunk Magazine, we scaled back. It used to be 10, 11 issues a year. We brought that to 6. Number one, not to burden advertisers. 2, because we want to make it more technical. Skunk is sort of like gravitating towards being a more of a grow magazine, for the people that, for the new grower, old grower alike, more science-based kind of thing, whereas the Highway is more of a lifestyle consumer magazine where we put some interesting, like I said, activist stories, some profiles, but less on the grow side. We showcase really great cannabis, but skunk has become, like, if you want to learn how to grow, you pick up skunk. If you're going to learn, how we got here, pick up the Highway.
You still got the Rev?
Sorry?
The Rev, is he still writing for you?
Oh, yeah. Now he just did his first article for the Highway, too.
Did he?
So, yeah, I'm putting the Rev to good use. He just released his second book last year.
Now,
he's a great guy.
Yeah. Well, I know he was a big help to me. I can tell you that.
He basically. When I was able to go to the U.S. before, I sampled what he had, and the difference is startling.
It is
clean, smooth, tasty. Very different.
Yes, I completely agree with you. It was a lot of work when I was learning it, and the product. You'd be in the circle and everybody just look like, whose is this?
Yeah.
And it's all about using what's available to you too. Like knowing how to. It's going back to the original way of farming.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Now, one business that we haven't touched on at all, we haven't even mentioned it, and that is Pure.
Yeah.
I'm no longer involved in Pure. It's one of the casualties of this. I mean, my the ex owner of me and Julie are the sole owners now of the magazines, but in turn I gave up my portion of Pure.
Okay. Yeah. Business reasonings, understandable.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, getting Julie on as a business partner and comrade, I mean, that's worth it all.
Yeah. And
it was a good thing. He basically likes Jamaica much more than I do. He wants to live there eventually, so it just made sense.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Down there in the grill. Okay, Kim. We got just a couple minutes there. Did you have another question or two before we throw the shout outs to John, or?
Yeah, no, just wanting to touch back a little bit about, the different events that we've attended over the years and stuff, and places that I've seen you, such as Lift, you and Julia as well, such as Lift, the Mom Cup, the Karma Cup, 420 Toronto, the list goes on, John. So many events that you're attending all over the place. What's the next one that you're going to?
Well, it's actually it's probably going to be Lift. Not my favorite event because it's too many suits for my taste, Yeah. Too many people. I used to, whenever I used to go to events, I used to practically know 90% of the people, And now I couldn't tell them apart from my bankers, And that's what it's become. So, I mean, Lift, I'll get to meet some good people and I'll get to hang with some good people. And I love going to Joey's, Puff Mama's place after the events, the underground, and have a good time. But at the event itself, it'll be more, touching base with some friends and that. But I'm not exhibiting there, I'll probably be doing some work on behalf of Normal. And just talking to friends,
But
the actual event doesn't really impress me. It just signifies the corporate takeover of cannabis in Canada. So
it's it's not like the old treating yourself expos, is it? Where you can
No.
displays?
I used to have my skirmishes with Marco, but one thing is he brought a lot of good people together, and he was the pioneer in that, in putting on it. Now, I just went to the Cannabis Life Network. There was O Cannabis before that, which I didn't go to, which I'm glad I didn't go to. But it seems that there's an event every week almost, So it doesn't have a special feeling anymore. But, 420 is always special in Toronto. We tend to do it there. I've been to Vancouver during Cannabis Day, and that was amazing, mind-blowing, seeing how tolerant the police were there. And I don't know. I'd like to probably go out east one of these days in the Maritimes. I've never been there.
Oh, I'm sure they would love to have you out there. I know there's some events out there. There's Harvest Fest.
Yeah. And I know Mom does a lot there. Yeah. Maritimers United for medical marijuana. No, it's a place that I want to go. And then there's another event in Winnipeg. There's all sorts now, which is, although I think we kind of lost to the LPs and to government on one side, I think, the fact that we have all these events and we've normalized cannabis to such a degree is a huge victory in itself.
It is, yeah. Like I can remember there used to be one 420 event here in Ontario.
Yeah.
And now it's everywhere and everywhere across Canada. Even Montreal, we didn't have much. And the last year I was there, not this year, I was in Toronto, but the year before, the whole mountain was packed with thousands of people coming out, trying to get a taste of that freedom, that we keep talking about. Cannabis is something that hurts nobody. And, it's victimless. Even when it was criminal, there was no victim. And yet we treat it like this, and it just opens your eyes once again that it's all based on greed. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Even Northern Ontario. North Bay had a 420 this year. New Liskeard, Ontario has had one 3 years running. Small town, rural, north is coming out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, and every year it'll be more and more normalized, Soon we'll see TV commercials, everything.
Exactly. Okay, John, we're down to the last couple of minutes here of the program. So this is where we look for you to throw a shout out, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, I want to. Well, first shout out goes to Julie, my partner, and in both the magazine and in my life. She's in California now for the next month, and I miss her, so I'd give her the first shout out. After that, I'd say the Emerys and the CC5 because to me they represent. Love them or whatever, whatever your personal feelings are. I've been spending a lot of time with them lately, and they're really on the right side of history, and they've been persecuted and are still being threatened right now, excluded from the system. But to me, they represent one of the last chance for the craft industry to become part of this, and it's too bad that they've had to. The RAS came down so hard on them. All of them.
Jody,
and all the other dispensary owners too that keep reopening. I'd like to give them a shout out.
Good. Yeah, I remember Jody saying that. It was the exclusion, not being involved in the process.
Right. And it's arrogant on their behalf. It's a theft. It's the crime of the century. I think.
Yeah, we had her on during the Global Marijuana March. We had an interview with her, and she speaks very well on a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah, she sure
both
does.
of them are some of our two of our best spokespeople.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was great speaking with Jody online that day.
Yes. Okay. So, John, your website, Skunk Magazine, skunkmagazine.com.
Yeah, skunkmagazine.com, and then there's the highwaymedia.com for the news people.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. Okay, Kim?
No, Kim, skip over Kim. Kim's been busy today, and Kim didn't prepare a shout-out.
Too many hits off the bang bong.
There you go, vagabond.com.
Vagabond.com. There's my shout-out. Vagabond.com. Check them out. They're kind of cool. If it breaks, you just buy a new mason jar bottom, and you're good to go once again.
Yeah, and you can get them with handles.
So I'm gonna actually leave you guys so I can spend a little time with my guests, and that'd be my last shout out. Jules and Myrtle from South Africa. We're kind of fighting. We're showing us that this fight is global. That
awesome.
Thanks a lot, John, for coming on the program, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Really soon. Thanks for staying so long, John.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye, hon.
All right, there you go, John Vergados, Skunk Magazine, and the Highway, Kim.
Yeah, great guy, does so much for the community. I mean, the hard times that he's come upon these days is just tragic. He does also, I know he's not going to publicize this himself. I'll put it up on our website as well, but there is also a GoFundMe account of some kind set up where he's taking donations for his legal fund. I mean, this guy's in a whole lot of trouble, people, and he's been a backbone of our community for many years, doing a great publication. Anybody that can help with a donation to his legal fund, I know it would be greatly, greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be. Okay, just a reminder, as always, I'll be back next Wednesday with joint host Alicia Yashishin and our guest Colton Turner. Some people may know him as the guy who says, "I'd rather be illegally alive than legally dead." He's got a point.
He does.
You can find the P.A.C.E Radio Show on Facebook and on Twitter at P.A.C.E Radio, Instagram at P.A.C.E Radio Show, and you can also find us on the web, and that's the spot where you can go and send us requests for the free stuff, and that is at pace-online.ca. And like I said, go there, write us, say you're looking for some free stuff, and you may receive some CDs or DVDs or some other educational information in the mail. So.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, you know what? It's timeless stuff. You know, like how can a lecture by Dr. William Courtney or Dr. Robert Mellamy or many others get old?
It doesn't. Yeah, those things are timeless. It's where our roots are. It was the beginning of it all. Many people, it's a treasured item to own, and you got a chance to get yours free.
That's right. Okay, our thank yous to go out to our sponsors, the friendly folks at BMA Hydroponics, located in Belleville, Ontario, bmahydroponics.com. Our friends at CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. Here we're talking about CEDARS. They're found at ccnexus.global. As always, the man behind the baggie, Al Rapp, here at Lifestyle Radio. And a big thank you to our guest, John Vergados, Skunk Magazine and The Highway. Check them out. As John said, Kim, The Highway is a free publication, and it's available at their website for a free download.
Yeah, awesome. Great magazine. I read it every month.
Yep. And always, Kim, a big thank you to you. Sorry about the snow, though. Yeah. And no wonder the houses up there are so cheap. If you don't mind snow until June. Okay, and as always, a big thank you to you, our listeners. Without their listeners, there's no program. All right. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might